All right, buckle up everyone, because today we're tackling a topic that's kind of legendary in the tech world.
Legendary and maybe a little infamous.
Right, we're talking about the 10x developer.
Oh yeah, the mythical programmer who can supposedly code circles around everyone else.
10 times more productive, that's what they
Yeah.
say. So if you're listening, chances are you're either,
Getting ready for a coding interview.
yeah, or maybe trying to level up your
Or
skills.
just fascinated by the idea of these, like, coding superheroes.
Totally. Well, this deep dive is for you. We're going to dig into an article called, Does the 10x Developer Really Exist?
Debunking the myth and embracing continuous improvement.
So we'll see if there's any truth to this idea, or if it's all hype.
And we'll explore what it means for us regular developers, for learning and growing in this field.
Because let's be real, who wouldn't want to be a 10x developer if they could?
Right. But where did this whole idea even come from? It's interesting,
Well, honest.
you often hear people bringing up this study from way back in 1968.
1968, wow.
Yeah, by Sackman, Erickson, and Grant.
Catchy games.
Anyway, they found this massive difference in productivity between their best and worst programmers.
How massive are we talking about?
Like a 10-to-1 ratio.
Whoa, okay, that's significant. But 1968, that's like the era of punch cards and mainframes, right?
Pretty much.
So that's what's fueling this modern-day tech myth. I mean, it's kind of funny,
It is, kind of.
but also a bit alarming if people are taking it super seriously.
Yeah, you got to take it with a grain of salt, right?
Totally. But I get why it's stuck around. It's a seductive idea.
The idea that there are these, coding wizards out there.
Exactly. But if we look closer at that study, didn't it have some serious limitations?
Oh, absolutely. We're talking small sample size, tasks that were way simpler than what developers deal with today.
Right. Things have gotten a bit more complicated since 1968,
And crucially, zero focus on teamwork.
which is like everything these days.
Essential in modern software development, for sure.
It's like comparing apples and oranges. You can't judge a modern Formula One car based on a horse-drawn carriage race.
Perfect analogy. And even beyond the historical context, how do you even measure developer productivity?
Yeah, good point. It's not like counting how many widgets someone made on an assembly line.
You can't just look at lines of code. A developer who writes less but creates more elegant, maintainable solutions
Oh, that's a good point.
might actually be way more valuable long term.
Totally. I had this project, I was so proud of myself, wrote this super dense, compact code.
Trying to be efficient.
Oh, yeah. Thought I was a genius. But
Yeah.
months later, I had to go back and make changes.
Man.
It was a nightmare, like deciphering hieroglyphics.
Oh, I've been there. It's a classic trap.
It took me twice as long to figure out my own code. So yeah, focusing on coding speed can backfire.
The article makes a great point about how context matters too. A so-called 10x developer in one situation.
Might not be so 10x in another.
Exactly. Maybe they shine with one tech stack but struggle outside of it.
It's like expecting a classical pianist to shred on an electric guitar. Both musical instruments, different skills.
Spot on. And this is something we miss with the whole 10x myth. Soft skills,
Soft skills like what?
communication, collaboration, problem solving. The article argues these can be as crucial as coding ability.
So you're saying even if you're not the fastest coder, having these soft skills makes you valuable to a team.
Hugely valuable. Imagine a team of brilliant but totally uncommunicative developers.
Oh, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Right. They could end up building a Frankenstein project. Parts don't work together. Everyone's in their own silo.
Yeah, you need someone to bridge those communication gaps, make sure everyone's on the same page.
And handle the inevitable personality clashes. It's real.
Okay, so we've established that this 10x idea is a bit shaky. But what about the downsides of buying into this myth?
Well, it's like chasing a phantom, right? It can lead to unrealistic expectations, burnout,
Not good.
and a culture that undervalues teamwork and diversity.
It creates this false dichotomy.
Yeah.
You're either a coding genius or you're nothing.
Exactly. It discourages people from even trying because they think they don't have that innate genius.
It's like saying you can only be a successful artist if you're a Michelangelo.
Right. Completely ignores the fact that everyone has their own strengths,
And that most of us improve through hard work, practice, making mistakes.
Exactly. Learning from those mistakes.
So if this 10x developer thing is a myth, what's a more realistic approach to excellence? The article mentions AlgoCademy. What is that?
It's an online platform. They focus on teaching algorithmic thinking.
Algorithmic thinking.
Okay, problem-solving skills.
Yeah.
Those are like the building blocks of good software development, right?
Yeah, makes sense. But why did the article highlight AlgoCademy specifically?
Well, it's not just another coding boot camp.
Right.
Their approach seems to be like a direct counter to this whole 10x myth.
Okay, I'm listening. How so? Do they have some secret sauce for making 10x developers?
Not really. It's actually much more grounded. They're not promising to make you a coding wizard overnight.
No magic spells.
Nope. Instead, they focus on building a solid foundation,
True.
deliberate practice, and progressively harder problems.
I've always been a bit intimidated by algorithms.
Really?
Yeah, back in college, I took a computer science course.
Uh-huh.
The whole algorithms thing seems so abstract, theoretical, like learning formulas without knowing how to use them.
And that's where AlgoCademy seems to be different. They emphasize practical application, bridging that gap between theory and real-world coding.
Okay, so less about memorizing and more about that problem-solving mindset you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. And they make it fun, which is huge. The article was really big on enjoying the learning process.
Makes sense. If you're not enjoying it, you're not going to stick with it, right?
Right. They use a gamified approach. Coding challenges are like puzzles. You earn points, badges as you go.
Ooh, I like that. It's like those language learning apps. Make it fun to learn new vocab and grammar.
Exactly. And they have personalized feedback too, so you're not just lost in the woods.
How does that work?
They've got this AI system, analyzes your code, gives you suggestions for improvement.
Like a virtual coding coach?
Yeah, something like that. So they've clearly thought about how to make learning engaging and effective. But zooming out, the article also talks about, redefining success.
Yeah. Moving beyond the 10x thing, what does that look like? What makes a developer truly valuable?
They highlight continuous learning as essential. Tech changes so fast.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not learning and adapting, you'll be obsolete before you know it.
I feel that. Every week there's a new framework, a new language. It's overwhelming, but also kind of exciting.
It is. It's a dynamic field. And then, of course, those soft skills we talked about.
Communication, collaboration.
Yep, crucial. You're rarely coding solo these days.
It's more like being in a band than a solo artist.
Perfect analogy. Everyone needs to be in sync. And it's not just communication, it's having a problem-solving mindset.
So less about brute force coding, more about strategy.
Yes. The article also talks about code quality and maintainability.
Oh, writing clean, well-documented code.
So important. It might seem slower in the short term, but saves so much time later on.
I learned that the hard way. Inherited this project once. The code was so messy.
Oh.
It was like diffusing a bomb. Took me forever to untangle it.
It happens. But that's why good code matters. And finally, the article talks about mentorship.
Ah, sharing knowledge?
Exactly. Developers who can mentor others, help them level up, they're so valuable to teams.
Right. A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
So continuous learning, communication, problem solving, code quality, mentorship. Those are the key things.
The article highlights those as essential for success in software development.
And the good news is these are skills you can develop over time. You don't have to be born a coding genius.
Exactly. It's a journey.
Okay, so we've talked big picture, but what are some practical steps our listeners can take to actually improve? Like, where do you even start?
It can be a bit overwhelming, right? Like, we've talked about all these amazing qualities.
There's so many things to work on, but how do you actually, turn that into action?
Well, you don't have to do everything at once.
That's good, because that sounds exhausting.
Right. Pick one or two things you're most excited about and focus on those.
Makes sense. So, remember AlgoCademy.
Yeah, that's a great starting point for those core coding skills, that problem-solving mindset.
It's like a gym for your coding brain.
Exactly. Got to exercise those mental muscles.
And they make it fun, which is key, right?
Yeah, the article was big on that. Enjoying the learning process. If it feels like a chore, you're not going to stick with it.
Totally. What about building real-world projects? The article talked about that too.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
It's where you take all that theory and actually apply it to real problems.
Right, like I learn best by getting my hands dirty.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy complicated.
Like what?
Build a personal website, maybe a simple to-do list app.
I could see that. And the cool thing is when you build projects, you run into all sorts of unexpected challenges.
Oh, for sure.
It's like a coding adventure, you got to figure things out, debug errors.
And that's where the real learning happens.
Right, so those aha moments when you finally crack something.
They stick with you.
I had this project once. I was building a web app with user authentication.
Oh, okay.
I've never done that before. It was a real head scratcher.
Authentication can be tricky.
Spent hours reading documentation, trying different things.
But you figured it out.
I did.
Yeah.
And it taught me way more than just following a tutorial.
Right, because you had to really grapple with it.
Exactly. It was tough, but so satisfying when I finally got it working.
That's the best feeling.
Okay, so we've got AlgoCademy, personal projects, and we can't forget open source, right?
Oh, yeah, the article mentioned that too. Contributing to open source is such a great way to learn and collaborate.
It's like this huge pool of knowledge. You can dive in and see how other people write code.
Learn from the best, contribute your own ideas. It's awesome.
And it looks good on your resume, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Shows you're passionate, you can collaborate.
Okay, so we've got a good toolkit here. AlgoCademy, personal projects, open source. What about staying up to date with all the tech trends?
That's a challenge for sure. Things move so fast.
It's like a treadmill that keeps speeding up.
Right. The key is to stay curious, be a lifelong learner.
But you don't have to chase every new shiny thing that comes along.
Exactly. Read blogs, listen to podcasts, try out new things that interest you.
Find that balance between staying informed and not getting overwhelmed.
Totally. And of course, let's not forget those soft skills we talked about.
Yeah, communication, collaboration, all that. How do we work on those?
Well, communication is all about expressing your ideas clearly. Practice explaining technical stuff to non-technical people.
Okay, like my grandma.
Yeah, exactly. Write blog posts, maybe try giving presentations, and be a good listener too, even when you disagree.
Active listening, got it. What about collaboration?
That's about teamwork, respecting others' contributions, being willing to compromise.
Right, not being a coding lone wolf.
Exactly. Find opportunities to work on group projects, maybe contribute to open source.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh.
And what about mentorship? That seemed important in the article too.
Mentorship is huge. If you're starting out, find someone more experienced who can guide you.
Like a coding Yoda.
Yeah, something like that. And as you gain experience, look for ways to mentor others.
Pay forward.
Exactly. Sharing knowledge is rewarding. It builds a stronger community.
It's like this beautiful cycle of learning and growth.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot. AlgoCademy, projects, open source, staying current, mentorship. But there was one more thing the article mentioned.
What's that?
Reflection. Like taking time to think about your progress.
Oh, that's so important. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget to step back.
Right, you got to check in with yourself.
Reflect on what you've learned, what's working, what you could improve. Ask for feedback from others.
It's like that agile development stuff, right?
Yeah.
Constant iteration and improvement.
Exactly. It's how you achieve mastery in anything, not just coding. Being a lifelong learner, embracing challenges.
This has been such a great deep dive. I feel like I've learned a lot.
Me too.
We debunked the myth of the 10x developer, explored the real qualities that make a developer valuable. I got some practical tips for improving our skills.
And for building a stronger tech community.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, remember, the journey of a software developer is one of continuous learning, collaboration, and growth. Embrace it, enjoy it, and keep striving to be the best you can be.